side. Hook it up to your hose, spray about 6 feet up and down from your house, out and up. Kills everything.
Yeah, so we bought a house that had, we have a ton of like carpenter ants and other things that have been crawling all over the walls the past week. So Fox Pest came.
The meeting is being live streamed, so everything is live, everything is heard, and everything is out there.
Keep it together, Emily. No
Diane.
funny stuff.
Quiet over here.
Good evening, everybody. Let's rise for the pledge to the flag, please.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you for coming to the Lancaster Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for the month of May. Welcome, everybody. We're just going to run over how this is done. We will call the cases one at a time, and we would ask the petitioner to come up to the microphone and give us your name and your address and tell us about your project. Then the board members will have a chance to ask questions. And once that's done, we'll open it up if there's anyone in the audience who wishes to ask questions. You too can come up to the microphone and tell us what's on your mind. I just want to go over quickly what the order is so you know when your case is going to be called. The first case tonight is going to be for 53 East Home Road. And let's see, then we have 54 Country Place, 6375 Transit Road, 6363 Transit Road, and 4781 Transit Road. Did I miss one? Had these all separated. 1280 Ransom Road, that I believe is going to be our third case tonight. Okay.
roll call.
Yes, thank you. Okay, we need the roll call, please.
Mr. Castellano, Mr. Dorenzo.
Here.
Mr. Michaely, Mr. Storr,
Here.
Mr. Sugg,
Here.
Mr. Tillmans,
Here.
Chairman Monticelli.
Here. Okay, I'll ask our town clerk, Ms. Diane Terranova, to read the first case.
First case considered by the Zoning Board of Appeals is that of the petition of John and Christina Logel, 53 East Home Road, Bowmansville, New York, for one variance for the purpose of installing a chain link fence in a required front yard on premises owned by the petitioners at 53 East Home Road, Lancaster, New York, to wit, a variance from the requirements of Chapter 400, Zoning Section 34, subsection C of the Code of the Town of Lancaster. The request calls for installing a 4-foot-tall chain link fence in a required front yard. Chapter 400, Zoning Section 34, subsection C of the Code of the Town of Lancaster requires no fence or wall over 3 feet in height shall extend into a front yard of any lot. The petitioners therefore request a 1-foot variance. And I gave each zoning board member 2 copies of from the neighbors today.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, and may we have someone on 53 East Home Road, please? Good evening.
Good evening. My name is John Logel of 53 East Home Road. We're looking, as Diane had said, to put up a fence in our rear backyard because we are a corner lot. Our backyard is considered a front yard. So we are looking to put up the chain link fence in the backyard to contain our kids and our dog.
4 foot, right?
4
foot, you said. Okay, thank you.
4-foot chain link.
Okay. Okay, let's start with Mr. Dorenzo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Excuse me. Just one question. In the packet, it talks about designation of representative. You have listed here Vincent Hiscock.
Yes.
Was that because you were thinking that you might not make it?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Okay. No other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Durenza. And Mr. Storr?
It's chain link, it provides no visible obstruction, the corner lot, yeah, no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Storr. Mr. Sugg?
I have no questions, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sugg. And Mr. Tillmans?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tillmans. I don't believe I have any questions either. Anyone want to make a motion on this?
Public? Public.
I'm sorry. I swore this time I was going to get everything right. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak about this matter? Okay. And I understand you have an emergency situation, so we will proceed.
I'd like to make a motion.
Thank you very much.
Whereas the zoning board of appeals of the town of Lancaster has made the following findings, that no undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood by the granting the area variance relief sought, that no detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the area variance relief sought, that the benefits sought to the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance relief sought, that the requested area variance relief sought is not substantial.
Hold on 1 second. The requested area variance relief.
Is not substantial.
Thank you.
That the proposed area variance relief sought will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district, that the alleged difficulty is self-created, but not to the extent necessary to preclude the granting of the area variance relief sought, that this board has taken into consideration the benefit to the applicants if the area variance relief sought is granted, as weighed against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by such grant, that within the intent purpose of this ordinance, the area variance relief sought, if granted, is the minimum variance necessary to afford relief.
Thank you, Mr. Storr. I'll second that. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Durenzo?
Yes?
Mr. Storr?
Yes.
Mr. Sugg?
Yes.
Mr. Tillmans?
Yes.
Chairman Monticelli?
Yes. Okay. Your
Thank you so
motion
much.
You're welcome and good luck. Okay, now we can slow down a tad.
Have a great night.
Congratulations. And good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
What did I miss? What did I miss?
He's having a baby. They're having a baby.
Oh, wow.
His wife's in the car waiting for us to finish.
Okay. Diane, would you read the next notice, please?
The second case considered by the Zoning Board of Appeals is that of the petition of Thomas and Patty Grimm, 54 Country Place, Lancaster, New York, for 2 variances for the purpose of constructing a shed within a drainage easement on premises owned by the petitioners at 54 Country Place, Lancaster, New York, to wit: A variance from the requirements of Chapter 400, zoning section 14, subsection D, Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster. The request calls for constructing a shed within a drainage easement. Chapter 400, zoning section 14, subsection D, Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster requires no structure other than fencing be allowed within a drainage easement. The petitioners therefore request a 1-foot 9-inch variance. B, a variance from the requirements of Chapter 400, zoning section 34, subsection C of the Code of the Town of Lancaster. The request calls for constructing a shed within 1 foot of the side yard lot line. Chapter 400, zoning section 34, subsection C of the Code of the Town of Lancaster requires for an accessory structure the minimum location from a lot line to be 5 feet from the side lot line. Petitioners therefore request a 5-foot variance.
Diane, can I ask a question before we get to this? The math doesn't seem to work for me. If he's 1 foot from there and code calls for 5, wouldn't that be 4 foot?
That's something.
It's
Okay.
less than 1 foot.
Oh, less than a foot, it's not a,
It's not even a foot, it's inches.
okay,
So
all right.
it may even be on the property line. A survey will determine that.
Okay, it didn't make sense to me, that's all.
I asked too.
Thank you. Sorry.
That's fine, thank you.
Jill, I stopped you before you were going to call somebody up.
Yeah, I'm really losing it. It's those bugs. Okay, do we have someone here from Country Place?
We do, Tom and Patty.
Okay, come on up, Tom and Patty.
Excuse me. Sorry, I got my back to you. Tom and Patty Grimm, 54 Country Place, Lancaster, New York.
Hi.
We're here to apply for a shed on the pad that was poured at 54 Country Place. We do have on the neighbor side with the 1 foot, is it 9 inches? We have our neighbor with a letter in there that has given us permission to do so. I have spent, the pad was poured last July. We worked with the town prior to it being poured, and we just had a disconnect. Something just went disconnected, so it got poured. So we wanted to make sure that it was within code in the town ordinance without moving forward. So what we've done since is we've kept an eye on that pad through the season since it was poured last July to make sure that the snow melt, the fall and the winter melt and the spring melt was not affecting my neighbors. So we've kept a really good rapport with all of our surrounding neighbors to make sure that that pad did not have an effect on our neighbors. I don't want it pooling. What I want you to, what everybody on the board to understand is that this house was the last house in the subdivision to be built. It's the only ranch in the neighborhood, and it was built on an umbrella by everybody's clay and rocks that they chose to throw on our property before the house was built. So it's built on a very interesting umbrella of property, which the house is at the center of. Where that pad lies is where a pool, an above-ground pool used to lie. We used that same footprint, if you will, to put our pad, thinking it was going to not only meet code, but suffice for the purposes of our shed. It didn't work out that way. So we came back to the folks at the board. They were great to work with, I have to admit. The folks, they supported us in this effort. So what we want to do is make it right. What I don't want to do is spend another 10 grand to have it cracked up and removed. If I thought it was an impediment to my neighbors, I'd be the first one. I wouldn't even be here. I would have cracked it up already and moved it. But since we've had almost 4 seasons of it sitting there and seeing what weather or any effects to my neighbors would be, there has been none. I was going to bring all my neighbors here. They were all willing to come here, all the 100 feet, all the way around. I didn't think that was necessary. I thought that might be a waste of everyone's time. So we're prepared to move it. It's not our best plan because we have a ranch house. We've really run out of space. Our 2.5 car garage is up to the ceiling. So with kids and sports and everything else, our thought as a family was to build a shed and use it for storage. So it was originally going to be a 12 by 12, but we extended to a 6 by 12 patio on the front, which brought us here because it changed it beyond, I think, that 144 square foot dimension, which creates a whole other set of circumstances. So I have on the side that's on the easement, if you were, I don't know if anyone on the board had a chance to physically go on site and see the pad. If you have, you'd see that it's really, by board zoning, it is in the easement, but there is a very large space should there be any need for the town to come through. It's really not any impediment to that. And that's what I wanted to get across. So should there be a need for that, I'd be happy on my own nickel to remediate should there be any town need or to come through there. As a family, I would do anything I would have to do to remediate. Even if there's a shed there, I'd be happy to remediate it. That's where we're at. We're just trying to build a shed. Wife?
Yeah. We just want a shed, that's all. We have a very small yard. There's not a lot of space to put a lot of stuff. And like we said, we're on an umbrella, so, our ground is not level.
The reason I bring that up, the town engineer put a declination letter in there because of the term that you folks would use would be a swale or a swell.
Swale.
Sir, what is
Swale.
It was existing. All we did was take the top off the mountain and flatten it. Mm-hmm. So we didn't create that swale or swell that was there. That was existing. We just put our pad on top of where it was. So that's it. We're just asking for your folks' opinion, I guess, is the bottom of the matter.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Grimm.
Sure.
All right, why don't we start with Mr. Sugg?
No, I appreciate you reaching out to your neighbor. That was my only concern. Obviously, it's on his property line, so
Yep.
as long as they're okay with it, I'm okay with it.
Thank
So
you.
no questions.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Sack. Mr. Tillmans?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the concrete pad that was put in, what, is it like 4 or 5 years ago? Or-
No, just
Okay.
this past summer in
Then What
July.
were you saying, in like 4 seasons, what's been around for like 4 seasons?
While that pad was there since July, I've been able to go
Just kinda
through the
watching it.
fall and winter and
Gotcha.
spring melts. I wanted to make sure there wasn't these huge lakes or anything created by the creation of that pad.
So-
And there hasn't been.
So you didn't know that there was a permit required for the concrete pad, or, because you mentioned there was some...
A little bit of ignorance and a little bit of misdirection. I would say that there was a lot of, answer your question, no. Let's just leave it at that. Let's not get into the semantics.
And then, so there was a pool there before...
Correct.
the-
And above ground.
The
So
prior.
you said you didn't create it, but it was there, like, about the swale?
The house, if you saw the property physically, you'll see that the house is built on an umbrella with the house at the center of that umbrella, and the entire property is tapered.
Okay.
If you saw it, yeah. So that swale that the engineer saw, he's not wrong, but that was existing prior to even this pad being created.
I think that's it. Questions?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tillmans. Mr. Jurenza?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Excuse me, sir. I'm glad to hear and encouraged to hear that you said that if there was a problem being an easement, that it would be on your nickel to have to
Absolutely.
remove it. I believe that would be a condition for this application to go forward. That being said, I really don't have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
I'd be
ma'am.
happy to sign any paperwork that support that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jurenza. Okay, we do have a letter from the neighbor. It's, well, actually, it was written by Mr. Grimm, but it's addressed to Mr. Christopher Kruger at 60 Country Place, and he has signed off on it saying that he does not have any concerns about the petition, the request.
And for the board, that is letter A on the paperwork.
Okay, I don't think we have that distinction here.
It's the first variance request, if that helps. It's the.
He's our neighbor next door.
He would be our south neighbor. Our
Yes.
house faces west.
Yes, okay. All right, well, we also have a letter from Edward Schiller, Director of Municipal Projects, with some concerns regarding the drainage easement. Not, you know, the main concern is not whether or not your neighbors are going to agree with this, but putting a concrete pad on an easement and then building a shed on top of it. I understand you don't want to break up the pad now and go to that expense and relocate the shed. If the town ever did need to get access, you're going to move the shed and you're going to break up the concrete at that point?
At our cost, if that's necessary, certainly.
Okay. And you said you'd be willing to sign something so we could get
Absolutely.
a
I would
form that
support, I'd sign supporting paperwork for that.
Okay.
I think, excuse me, Madam Chair, I believe that it would also be required to bring that swale back up to its design drainage.
Oh, that's easy.
Capacity.
We'd be happy to do that too.
Not just-
We grade it to your satisfaction.
Yep.
There's
Yep.
no doubt about that.
Yep.
That's not a big request.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Johnson. Okay, anyone in the audience who'd like to speak to this matter?
Oh,
Keith, when did you get here?
Yes, sir.
thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Secretary. So the pad that's already poured goes 1 foot 9 inches onto the easement.
Nope, a 1.9 to the neighbor. That's the neighbor side, that would be the south-facing side. So
I drove by, but I didn't go in your backyard.
So the easement is how far you guys, if there's a fence in the middle of the easement, the neighbor is 3.5 feet, I'm 3.5 feet, and then you gotta be 5 from that, correct?
5 from the lot line.
Yeah.
So we fall short by 4 point something.
Yeah,
So,
but the pad itself goes 1 foot 9 inches onto the easement, if I'm not mistaken by the survey that was.
Keith, that's a good question. That's above my pay grade. I have to.
Okay,
That
so,
would be correct.
May I approach?
yeah, of course. So the pad is poured.
Okay, there it is. Yep.
I'm not concerned about the.
That's the neighbor's
Yeah,
side.
the neighbor side, I'm not concerned with at all. You
Yep.
have a letter from the neighbor. I appreciate that.
Yep.
Good. It only being 1 foot 9 inches onto the easement, what was your original, you said you changed the size of your shed plan originally to fit the.
That's a very good question.
What was your original plan?
The original is what you're looking, so the original plan was to have a 12 by 12 shed with a 6 by 12 porch, overhang, a lean-to, overhang with
Yep.
pillars. We were approved for a permit if we changed our design to, and I'm doing off memory, like, just bear with me.
You're doing fine.
It was approved if we backed off that porch and just went with 12 by 12, we wouldn't even be here. It was, I mean, that's where we're at. But because we have that addition, is it, and forgive me, is it 144 feet changes all the rules? Is that the?
Over 140.
If I go over 144
I'm
square.
not gonna lie to you, I'm not
Okay,
sure what you're referencing right now.
Once you go beyond from my definition, and once you go larger than 12 by 12 with your pad, the rules change.
Well, we've got the
Matt,
building. we've
So I
is
got
that-
approved for a permit the minute I put my, once I changed that footprint to a 12 by 12, I got approved for a permit. It should be all in there. But then the problem was they came and saw the extra 6 by 12. It turned out to be 144, and here we are. So I don't contest any of
My question wasn't about the poundage or anything
Yeah.
regarding the easement, but
It-
a 12 by 10 shed would get rid of one of these variances and take two, I mean, I'm not telling you what to do with your property, but take 2 feet off the back of this pad, this concrete pad, and you don't touch the easement at all.
It
There's
cost
no
us
risk.
$3,800 to cut it,
Okay.
$7,800 to replace it.
Okay,
And if I could avoid that, I would love to.
okay.
I'm not here to beg anybody here in this room for that. I'm here to try to keep the footprint and try to own it.
Not a
is
problem
what I'm
whatsoever.
trying to do. And I appreciate that question.
The fact that you know what it would cost to do that.
Yeah,
And
I've-
that is, it's not $50, it's a prohibited.
No, it's
Thousands
Yeah.
of
it's
dollars.
stuff.
That's the information I needed. No further questions.
And that's fine.
Thank
I-
you, Mr.
yeah,
Stewart.
I'm not here to argue that.
No worries whatsoever.
Okay. Now,
She takes a deep breath, so uh-oh, here we go.
is there anyone in the audience who'd like to address this request?
If I can make some corrective statements.
Thank you, Matt.
Please. There was a lot of confusion in regards to this application. It was originally issued in December 6th of 2021. The project did not commence until the July timeframe. The information that was provided showed a general location of a shed structure on the lot, clearly outside of the easement. No dimension taken, and this is not an excuse, but in an effort to service the public efficiently without stonewalling and being that kind of department, the application was accepted, it was reviewed, and the permit was issued. Upon the stakeout inspection, it was found the location of the pad too close to the side yard and in the drainage easement, clearly not where it was originally plotted in the permit documents in December. And that's where we began the discussion of getting in front of this board to somehow make the location compliant with the zoning code. So the sizing of the shed has no bearing on where the location of the shed is. There are some structural elements that could be waived on a 144 square foot shed and smaller, and it has everything to do with the foundation requirements pertaining to the state code. So, wherever that confusion was, it was it was 7 months after the permit was issued was when it was identified. It was placed in a location, not the way it was proposed, because it would never been issued inside an easement and that close to the property line. So
That's a great statement. And We didn't want to sue our contractor, we figured we'd take this route.
That being
That was
said,
a choice
Hold
by our.
on, hold on,
this
please.
is the effort to make this permit and location compliant with the zoning code.
Thank you. And you guys are great at work, so
Thank you.
we appreciate it.
Okay, thank you for clearing that up, Matt. It was kind of confusing. Okay, so no one else in the audience?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Suggs.
Whereas the zoning board of appeals of the town of Lancaster has made the following findings, that no undesirable change, can't spit that out tonight, will be produced in the character of the neighborhood by granting the area variance relief sought, that no detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the area variance relief sought, that the benefits sought by applicants cannot be achieved by some other method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance relief sought, that the requested area variance relief is not substantial, that the proposed area variance relief will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district, that the alleged difficulty is self-created but not to the extent necessary to preclude the granting of the area variance relief sought, that this board is taking into consideration the benefit to the applicants that the variance relief sought is granted is weighed against the detriment to health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by such grant, that within the intent and purposes of this ordinance, the variance relief sought, if granted, is the minimum variance necessary to afford relief.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Peter,
Mr. Suggs.
very much. Thank you,
Is there a
board.
condition, is there a condition on there?
Okay, I was,
Yeah, the condition had them sign it if I had to get back there.
Do you want me to read the conditions that we talked about?
that would be great. Thank you,
Okay.
Penny.
Petitioners will move the shed at their expense if the need arises and will sign the agreement with the town, and the swale would be regraded to the specifications of the code.
Thank you.
Absolutely. We agree.
Does that have to be filed at County Hall for subsequent owners or just the applicant?
I think it's just the applicant.
Thank you.
Haven't we done that? Or was filed with the county before?
Sorry, would you say that again?
Pretty sure the ones that we've had in the past have been filed with the county, right? My understanding?
The county doesn't want them.
I think,
If you want me to file with the county clerk, I have no issues with
Yeah,
that.
it's just what we've done
I have no
in the
issues
past.
with filing with the Erie County clerk.
Okay.
That's not
I
an
mean,
issue here.
So-
they tried filing them there, and
I'm a lawyer's kid, everything we do is
They
goes to the clerk.
So can we just clarify that, Diane, because I wasn't aware, that the Grimms are bound by that, by signing that agreement, but future owners would not be. So if the town needed to come in and gain access to that easement, they would not be able to.
unless you want, I can add and.
If you want to
and
put a
file with
caveat,
this-
if we
with-
sell, to
file-
notify the town, I'd be happy to put a
Okay.
caveat
it's
in.
more.
Please,
it's-
please let the
Okay.
town clerk finish. I'm sorry.
I can add the condition and file with Erie County Clerk.
File it on the deed.
File it on the deed with the Erie County Clerk.
Is it
Okay.
covenant or a restriction? Is that correct, Emily? Is it a
Yeah.
restriction on the parcel
Correct.
or covenant?
Will that be prohibited to sale?
You're not planning on selling right where?
No, I ain't going anywhere. That's a forever home, folks.
Okay, got it.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, and I'm sorry, did we get a second on that?
Nope.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart.
Thank you, Keith.
And roll call vote, please.
Mr. Dorenzo,
No.
Mr. Storr,
Yes.
Mr. Sugg,
Yes.
Mr. Tillmans,
No.
Ms. Monticelli.
Yes.
Thank you, board.
Passes.
Okay, so just work, is there something
No.
else?
Diane?
No, it does not pass.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We have to have 4 to pass. There's 7 on the constituted board, so you always need 4 to pass. And we have 2 noes and 3 yeses, so it is denied.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anything I
Apologize.
can do to change the no's? Is there something I could do to satisfy that?
Should I answer that?
Either no?
Go right ahead.
Emily, should I answer that? I mean, I can't. I'll tell you why. I have no problems telling you why I voted no, because our town attorney, or our town engineer, who we rely upon heavily, told us, in his opinion, that it shouldn't be passed. And we go to him a lot, ask him questions.
Sure.
I don't want to sour that relationship where he just doesn't respond to us anymore, or doesn't service us the right way.
Sure.
And if there's a way you can talk to him and get him to change what he wrote, I'd be in favor of it personally, but I...
It cannot come back to the board for a year.
Anything I can do to,
I mean, I'm
Change,
kind of
no?
the same, kind of the same way with, as Carl said. The town engineer, who we rely on for his opinion, said no, and that's an important opinion.
okay, nothing I can do. And thank you guys very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Diane, whenever you're ready, if you could read the next.
Third case considered by the Zoning Board of Appeals is that of the petition of Timothy Heineman, 1280 Ransom Road, Lancaster, New York, for 2 variances for the purpose of constructing a shed on premises owned by the petitioner at 1280 Ransom Road, Lancaster, New York, to wit: A variance for the requirements of Chapter 400 zoning section 13 subsection C Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster. The request calls for constructing a shed with a 7-foot 3-inch setback dimension from the north property line. Chapter 400 zoning section 13 subsection C Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster requires the minimum location from a lot line of 15 feet from the side lot line. The petitioner therefore requests a 7-foot 7-inch variance. B, a variance from the requirements of Chapter 400 zoning section 13 subsection C Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster. The request calls for constructing a shed with an 8-foot setback dimension from the west property line. Chapter 400 zoning section 13 subsection C Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster requires the minimum location from a lot line of 15 feet from the side lot line. The petitioner therefore requests a 7-foot variance.
Thank you, Diane. Okay, Mr. Heineman. Come on up and tell us what's going on.
Okay, I am Timothy Hyman. I own the lot at 1280 Ransom Road with my wife, Darlene. We bought it in 2018, and we would like to construct a shed that's actually 7 feet off the lot line on the north side, but it's 4 feet away from the fence. There's a fence, like a 6-foot fence that goes down the entire lot line. Part of that fence, of the neighbor's fence, is on my property. That's just the way it was built. But I want to go 4 feet off the line from the north, and on the west, the fence stops and heads north. If you see it on the survey, Keith, the lot line on the west, their property comes in and then heads back to the fence. So there's a little notch there. It's not really at the end of the property. It's just where that notch is. Yep. Then I want to go, instead of 15 from that lot line, I want to go 8. I think it's 8 feet from there. So it ends up being behind the fence. I've talked to my neighbors, and they don't have a problem with the conditions at all. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. All right, where do we leave off? Mr. Tillmans, you want to get us started, please?
Okay, so I guess kind of reiterate what you just said there with this. So this is the little dip that you're talking about here? Mm-hmm. And this is where the fence is? Is that correct? Or are you saying the fence was here?
Yeah, the fence is here.
Okay, so this is the, oh, perfect.
This is the actual. They show the plastic fence, and here's the red is the lot line. They don't really show it on this one, but the fence comes onto my property. So I'm actually going to go 7 feet off, 4 foot for the fence and 3 foot from the actual lot line. So this neighbor does not have an issue with it, and I've talked to that neighbor. I've talked to all the neighbors. We need to see that.
Nope, no, that makes more sense now.
It just makes more sense than the other one.
Yeah, no, it does, yeah.
When I saw the first one, I assumed that the fence was on the lot line, but it's not.
That's about it. I think I'm all set.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Tillmans. Mr. DiRenzo?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is going to be a 16 by 20 garage shed plan? That's what, it's in the packet?
Yeah,
and that's
so we
what
have
you built?
an overhead door and a side door. It'll have siding on it like the house,
Vinyl siding?
vinyl siding, and a roof. I'm looking at putting metal on my house eventually. It's going to need a couple of years, going to need a roof. So I'm going to put steel on the shed is my plan. It's just a basic shed because I have to get my lawn equipment out of my two-car garage so I can put another car in. And my snow blower and spreader and sweeper and all that stuff. So they always say they never can go big enough, but I think it's 16 by 20 should do it.
I think we've heard this before. Happy wife, happy life, right?
We try.
Yeah, that usually comes into play with the sheds like this. So it'll essentially match the house color-wise scheme?
Yeah, I've already talked to Lowe's. The siding's discontinued with GP, but they're looking at the substitute, so it'll be the same 5 by 5 traditional siding.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Torenzo. Mr. Storr?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You've talked to your neighbors, if they've given you the heads up. Do you have any intent to run any commercial activities out of the shed?
No.
or- Okay.
I do want to run a 120 line out for a light, but there should be no other issues there.
Excellent. No further questions, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Storr. Mr. Sugg?
I have no questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Sugg. Okay, and I was out there, I assume that was your wife I spoke with?
Yes.
Who showed me the property, and so I know what we're looking at, and I don't think I have any questions about it either. So anyone in the audience care to speak to this case? There being none, call for a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Tillman.
Whereas the Zoning Board of Appeals of the Town of Lancaster has made the following findings: that no undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood by the granting of the area variance relief sought, that no detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the area variance relief sought, that the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance relief sought, the requested area variance relief is not substantial, that the proposed area variance relief will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district, that the alleged difficulty is self-created but not to the extent necessary to preclude the granting of the area variance relief sought, that this board has taken into consideration the benefit to the applicants if the variance relief sought is granted as weighed against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by such grant. That within the intent and purposes of this ordinance, the variance relief sought, if granted, is the minimum variance necessary to afford relief.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Tillman. Mr. Sugg. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Dorenzo?
Yes.
Mr. Storr?
Yes.
Mr. Sugg?
Yes.
Mr. Tillmans?
Yes.
Chairman Monticelli?
Yes. Okay, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Your petition is approved. You just need to speak to the building department to get it started.
Get the permit.
All
Yes.
right, thank you. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm going to shake things up a bit. It looks like we have 3 different variance requests, 3 different cases actually on the Transit Road petitions with Benderson, and we also have a residential request for 53 East Homewood Road. So Diane, could you read that one for us?
The 53 one. That was the guy that.
That was the first one?
Yeah, the guy that had the baby.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so I'll just ask you to read the next case, Diane, I'll figure out where we are.
The fourth case considered by the Zoning Board of Appeals is that of the Benderson Development Company, LLC, 570 Delaware Avenue, Buffalo, New York, for one variance for the purpose of installing wall signs and window graphics on premises owned by Ream Transit Associates, 570 Delaware Avenue, Buffalo, New York, at 6375 Transit Road, Lancaster, New York, to wit. A variance from the requirements of Chapter 400 zoning section 30 subsection F 2A of the Code of the Town of Lancaster. The request calls for installing wall signs and window graphics for a new tenant at 517 square feet, bringing the total sign face area to 567 square feet for the building. Chapter 400, zoning section 30, subsection F2A of the Code of the Town of Lancaster requires the maximum sign face area of 120 square feet. Petitioner therefore requests 447 square foot total sign face area variance.
You have me walk through all three of these at once. They kind of tie one into the other. You want me to do one at a time?
I don't know.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear
I
that.
said, do you want me to do all three of them? They all tie together. They flow together. Do you want me to do one at a time?
You have to vote separately.
Yeah.
I'll just walk through the three and then you can vote them. That way I can tell the story once.
Okay, well, let's start with the first one, and then you can tell us how it ties into the others.
My name is James Baglioli. I'm an attorney for Benderson Development, 570 Delaware Avenue, Buffalo, New York. I know the board is familiar with this site. It's a large L-shaped shopping center, mixed use with a lot of different uses, anchored by Tops. It's got a Tops gas facility here. Out front, along Transit, it has a building with two tenants in it. It used to be a Fitness 19, and the Subway's still there. Fitness 19 had maintained signage on the Transit side, and the parking is over here with the front doors and on the parking lot side. Subway maintained signage on the parking lot side and then on the back of the building. The first variance is for the graphics and signage for our new tenant, Western New York Immediate Care. They're looking for signage. This is the side of the building facing Transit Road. This is the side of the building facing the parking lot with their main doors being right here. And the signage mirrors the signage that was on when Fitness 19 was on the building. We're putting it in the same location. They're also looking for window graphics, which have no actual signage, just pictures of people. The reason those window graphics are needed is we had to build walls for the offices, for the medical offices. So if we don't have the signage, you're going to be looking at the back of a wall where the glass is. So it just screens the back of sheetrock so you don't see it. There's no words or anything on it. It's just pictures of people to kind of disguise the walls behind them. That makes up a significant amount of the variance request, is blocking that wall area. I don't believe there's any, I went through the 5 criteria in the letter I gave you. Is it in character with the area? I believe it is. We previously had Fitness 19 signs on both sides of the building. The only addition here is these parcels to block the walls in the back. Is there any way to get this without the variance? There is not. If we make the sign smaller, it's an immediate care facility. The goal is for people to find it. Well, when you're on Transit Road, if we shrink those signs down, you can't really see them, especially at the speed of Transit Road. Is it substantial? I don't believe so, because it's kind of consistent with the signs on the rest of the buildings in that shopping center. And across the street, you have McDonald's and a number of the commercial uses. It has no physical or environmental impacts on the neighborhood. The whole area is commercial in this area. And finally, is it self-created? I'd argue that part of it is self-created, but part of it isn't. Those signs did exist for Fitness 19 for years. We're just simply seeking to replace those. And those are generally the application.
I'm sorry,
That's generally the application. I can answer any questions the board has.
Okay. Mr. Dorenzo?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we're talking about window graphics,
Yes.
essentially?
Here, this is the parking lot side of the building, and then the Transit Road side of the building.
And that actually is considered signage?
Well, my discussion with the applicant and the sign company, given the information from the tenant, is that they were proposing and would like the opportunity to install logos within those window graphics. Window graphics are typically not associated with advertising, but in the early conversations with the tenant's input as well as the sign company's input, the sign company is just doing the wall sign. And as far as the wall sign is concerned, we were over by like 120 square feet for the overall maximum sign face area. The window graphics that came in afterwards, they wanted to mimic their branding. And I do agree that a lot of it is human figures in office space settings, but there are some logos that they've proposed. They wanted to be free to put those logos in the graphics portion. they weren't able to determine exactly where. So they requested the variance for that area.
And so by doing that, you essentially have to consider the entire amount, because they could put it anywhere, right?
The square footage, because adding into the advertising space that's placed on the building itself. And honestly, you know, this has been a plaza that's been well established,
25 years.
And what have you. And when I do a plan review, I do a plan review according to what the code dictates. The current tenant, I don't know where, but the subway signs had never been permitted. Fitness 19 had not been permitted. It used to be a video.
Before it was a video store. Before
A video
and
store
those signs
before
were
that.
signs
You
were
had
there
a
also.
permit for the video store. Everything after that just kind of happened, right? So, you know, again, in an effort to make the applicant compliant to the zoning, we're here in front of this board seeking that.
Is there any way that we could forego the logo?
Yep. I can certainly take a condition that there are no logos on the signs.
On the graphics?
On the graphics, I'm talking on the window graphics, because
Window graphics.
honestly, I think after listening to what Matt just said, that's the biggest piece of this, what we're looking at. It sounds like it's about 3/4 of the variance application.
It's about 3/4 of the variance application, is
Yeah.
the window graphics. And they're mainly there to screen the
Yeah, and
back of sheetrock, so we're not.
If it's
looking-
only to cover the sheetrock, it seems to me like it would make sense.
Yeah.
Again,
It's like siding. It's like putting siding on a building.
Right.
The interior environment satisfies the light ventilation
Yeah.
requirements. But it's exactly as it was presented. It's a
Yeah.
screening effect. But the tenant implied that that they were going to use a graphic that incorporated, some advertising.
Yeah.
So that's almost, oh, wait.
No, you, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so really there's really no telling how big the signage would be, because they could essentially.
Right.
We give them the approval, and they could essentially make the whole window graphic.
Right, and that's why I think what Matt was
Probably
saying.
won't, but
No, and
it kind of opens up that, a door for them to do
Later
that.
on in life, the next tenant could have however many.
Yeah, or, they start with that, and next year they change it up, and
Well,
the signage area becomes even larger.
for me, if there was a way for us to somehow either quantify it or remove that graphic.
I would take a condition that we don't put any advertising on the window graphics.
Okay.
They're trying to open next week, so I don't want to come to the next meeting.
I understand.
They kind of got caught up in this.
I understand.
So I would certainly take a condition that there's no advertising on the window graphics.
Okay. No further questions, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dorenzo. Mr. Storr?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Everyone here has probably driven past dozens of immediate cares and are all over Western New York. Before his question, in my head, I was thinking, for the advertising, it's probably just that same logo of just immediate care on the scrubs and just on the bottom, that like 6-inch banner.
It really is tiny. It is pretty much the thing on the scrubs and the little tiny 6-inch banner. You see them all over the place.
I would say if it's in character with every other immediate care and not some giant thing.
But following the application, it could have been the entire thing.
Well, because what happens is for the variance, we're characterizing the entire window graphic, not just the little band of.
Right.
They didn't pull that out of their application and say, I need, 6 square feet in addition. So,
Okay. No further questions then.
Thank you, Mr. Storr. Mr. Suggs?
I have no questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Suggs. Mr. Tillmans?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no questions.
No questions? Thank you, Mr. Tillmans. Would it be possible, rather than putting the graphics on the windows, to decorate the wall behind them?
no, the walls are already up. There's no way to get behind the walls.
I'm sorry.
The walls are already up. The entire inside of the facility is built out. So there's no way to get behind the walls. It's pressed against the glass. So.
Oh.
So basically, if we didn't have these window graphics, you would be looking, if you like in your house, you would be looking at the back of a wall that was built there. Because when we converted the space to office space and they built all their offices, the glass from the Fitness 19 was still there. So they just chose the areas where the back of the walls are and put the graphics on those to block that out.
Okay. So this picture that we're looking at, it has graphics on some of the windows, but not all of them?
That's correct.
Okay. And if they were to put their logo up, where were they planning to put it?
It's typically, if you look at them, like one board member noticed, it's usually on the shirt, it's on the scrubs.
So they weren't planning to put anything directly on the window?
This is right over, this is like vinyl right on the window.
I'm sorry.
This is vinyl mounted right on the window. Like the
Okay.
signage is mounted to the glass. The logo that we're talking about, which they didn't pull out, is like on the scrubs, it says Western New York Immediate Care. And then it's got a little banner on the bottom that says Western New York Immediate Care. But they had not called that out. But right now, it's the square footage. And they didn't even mention it to us. I know they had that conversation with me.
Essentially, on her shirt, it would say immediate care on her
In
sleeve.
the graphics,
Down
Yeah.
there, like, a little banner.
Right.
a picture of what the
Yeah, problem
interior of
with-
your office is going to be. It's got a logo.
If we approve this, are we saying they can put anything they want on the windows is what I'm...
That's his point.
Yeah,
Yeah, if we give them the application, if we approve it,
Yeah.
then they could make the whole thing. if they want.
I mean, the other thing I could take is if you gave me, less than 10% of the window graphics could be advertising, that would probably skirt them in, and then it would always restrict us going forward. That probably gets them the little graphic and the little thing on the bottom. I would like to have them, these graphics are printed, you see them all over West New York, they print the same thing, and they mount them all over. I could, that way it protects, from what you're saying, we don't just put signage up in the windows. 10 or 15% buys us the ability to put those small logos in and put the rest of the graphics up. I would like, that would give us a little more flexibility with it.
I would be good with that also.
I would like,
Yeah.
That would be a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, and I think it solves the problem, then it's not going to be sometime in the future, some giant sign just thrown in the window.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
okay. Very good. Okay, anything else you'd like to tell us?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone in the audience want to speak about this? Okay, there being none, I'll call for a motion.
I'll do it.
Thank you.
Whereas the zoning board of appeals of the town of Lancaster has made the following findings: that no undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood by the granting of the area variance relief sought, that no detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the area variance relief sought, that the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some other method feasible for the applicants to pursue other than the area variance relief sought, that the requested area variance relief sought is not substantial, that the proposed area variance relief will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district, that the alleged difficulty is self-created, but not to the extent necessary to preclude the granting of the area variance relief sought. This board has taken into consideration the benefit to the applicants if the variance relief sought is granted as weighed against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by such grant, that within the intent and purposes of this ordinance, the variance relief sought, if granted, is the minimum variance relief necessary to afford relief.
And the condition?
Oh, yeah, and the condition that the sign graphics...
Could,
The
want me to
advertisement
reread?
Pardon?
Would you like me to read what I...
Oh, yes, please, yes.
Advertising on the window graphics will not be more than
10%,
We take 15.
15%.
15%.
Just in case we're close.
15%
Of the variance, of the variance, of the...
17.5.
15, I'll take 15.
Matt, can we word it as 15% of the whole or
Of the window graphics portion.
of the window graphics portion?
Thank you.
Thank you. That was a good idea.
Okay.
They're so small, it's just, I don't think they didn't scale them out. I don't think they typically do that with them.
Okay,
You need a second?
thank you. Yes, we do.
I will second that.
Second, Mr. Stewart, thank you. And roll call vote, please.
Mr. Dorenzo?
Yes.
Mr. Storr?
Yes.
Mr. Suggs?
Yes.
Mr. Tillmans?
Yes.
Chairman Monticelli?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so one down, two to go.
The fifth case considered by the zoning board of appeals is that of Benderson Development Company, LLC, 570 Delaware Avenue, Buffalo, New York, for one variance for the purpose of installing two off-site advertisement signs on an existing pylon sign on premises owned by Ream Transit Associates, 570 Delaware Avenue, Buffalo, New York, at 6363 Transit Road, Lancaster, New York, to wit, a variance to the requirements of Chapter 400 zoning section 30 subsection D1 of the Code of the Town of Lancaster. The request calls for installing 2 off-site advertisement signs for 6375 Transit Road on an existing pylon sign located at 6363 Transit Road. Chapter 400 zoning section 30 subsection D1 of the Code of the Town of Lancaster requires that no sign shall be used to attract attention to an object, product, place, activity, institution, organization, or business not available or located on the premises where the sign is located. The petitioner therefore requests a variance to allow 2 off-site advertisement signs for 6375 Transit Road on an existing pylon sign located at 6363 Transit Road.
That's a mouthful for a very simple application. So when this project was developed, we built a pylon sign on the driveway, familiar with it. The property is actually 3 lots, and it's in the letter, but my assistant didn't put the aerial with the lots on. But the building here is on 1 lot, Tops and the Gas is on another lot, and the building over here is on a 3rd lot, right, for tax purposes, because each entity pays their own taxes. But we have 1 pylon sign. So that variance is requesting Western New York Media Care and Subway to go on the pylon sign. Subway's already on the pylon sign here, and Western New York Media Care is going to the panel that used to have Fitness 19 on. So if you go through the 5 criteria, there's absolutely no impact with this. The sign was designed for the entire plaza. The alternative would be to build 3 separate pylon signs on Transit, because legally each property would be allowed to have a pylon sign. So we're actually reducing signage with this application and just putting them on the sign we built for the shopping center. I think I always call these paper variances because it operates as a shopping center. There's REAs, but the lot lines generate that difference.
Okay, thank you.
I could walk through the criteria, but it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I think we've got it. Okay, let's start off with Mr. Storr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is this going to be the exact same variance for the next one too?
It's the next, yes, the next one is the
Ream
the
Road
next
side?
one is all these tenants on the pylon sign that already exist on the pylon sign. So what's happening is, apparently, I don't know why, never got picked up in the past, but all tenants are on the sign, so the next one legalizes all these tenants being on the pylon sign that was built for the plaza. So they're the same variance for 2 separate buildings.
Okay.
Thank you. No more questions.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Storr. Mr. Sugg.
Madam Chair, I have no questions.
When she asks.
Thank you, Mr. Sugg. Mr. Tillmans.
I have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Tillmans. Mr. Dorenzo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. No questions.
Thank you, Mr. Dorenzo. So the pylon sign that's existing never had a permit?
No, the pylon sign has a permit. To put the tenant panels from the other buildings, see, technically, under your code, that becomes a billboard. I mean, off-site advertising, because it's not on the same lot, but it's on the same shopping center. So when we came in and got site plan approval, we designed 1 sign, because why would you put 3 signs up, right? But no one ever said, by the way, you should also get variance to put all these, because they're different lots.
That's what I was asking. Sorry if I was unclear.
Yeah. So basically, that's what's happened over history is, we just put the tenants on the panels that we built them for, but never got the variance to make it legal.
So, Matt, when they, if Subway moves out and Wendy's moves in or something, will they need to go through this again?
No, because that variance would already be granted on this parcel.
On the properties.
For the next door neighbor properties.
Okay.
And again, without getting into history lessons and making this longer than it needs to, the planning process could have incorporated all of this into one nice, neat little package, but, it's just a whole lot at one time.
Okay.
And it's old. It was 26 years old, so I think things were different back then a little bit. I was not here.
Okay, and the existing sign, at least in the picture, and I'm familiar with the plaza, so I didn't drive over there. There's a sign for Kaleida Health Lab and the Lancaster OBGYN, and those are not there anymore, is that right?
They'll come down, I think. I think they may be down already. I haven't been down by the plaza. I'll go there on the way home.
Okay.
See where they are.
Okay. Very good, thank you. Anyone in the audience have any questions?
One question. Mike Tucker.
No. And you have to go up to, excuse me, you have to go up to the microphone and give me your name, please.
My name is Gerald Kane. I'm 59 Donna Court, Depew, New York. I'm on behalf of 26 Ream Road, which is Hillview Baptist Church. And I don't see any problems. I just wanted to clear up a couple of things here. We're not talking about two separate signs, pylons, right? With 2 on one and 9 on the other?
It's one sign.
One sign. Okay, so there's going to be 11 new signs on there?
No.
No, there's not. Okay, look, that's what I want to know. Yeah.
9 of them are on the sign. 10 of them are on the sign. We're adding one panel that's blank to the sign.
Okay,
We're just filling it in.
okay.
So there's no new-
I think you said that too, but I couldn't.
There's no new signage.
Yeah. There's no new signage. Okay, and the other question was, you did state that the off-site was for the new medical center that's going to be there, but the other nine, you don't tell what they were for, who they were advertising for.
9?
Yeah.
They're all the other tenants in the building.
Oh, okay, everybody.
They're already.
Oh, yeah, that's right, okay.
So nothing's
yeah.
changed. They're already on the building. They're already on the sign. Just in the past, we never got the variance.
Okay.
So we're talking about China One, Supercuts.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that's all.
Yeah. Everything that's on the sign, on the sign.
So there was no objections from Hillview or nothing?
Yeah, the whole plaza has 3 different addresses.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. The zoning board doesn't, or the zoning law doesn't allow signage at one address for another. But in this situation, they're all kind of lumped together.
Yeah, when I first read this, I thought there's going to be 11 signs.
Yeah.
Which, no skin off my nose.
Yeah.
Gerald, your first name is Gerald, and your last name is?
Kane, C-A-I-N-E.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you for coming in. Thank you for waiting so long. Okay, looks like that's it for the audience then.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Was it Mr. Suggs?
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Suggs.
Whereas the zoning board of appeals of the town of Lancaster has made the following findings: that no undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood by granting of the area variance relief sought, that no detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the area variance relief sought, that the benefit sought by the applicants cannot be achieved by some other method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance relief sought, that the requested area variance relief is not substantial, that the proposed area variance relief will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district, that the alleged difficulty is self-created but not to the extent necessary to preclude the granting of the area variance relief sought, that this board is taking into consideration the benefit of the applicants if the variance relief sought is granted as weighed against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by such grant, that within the intent and the purposes of this ordinance, the variance relief sought, if granted, is the minimum variance necessary to afford relief.
Thank you, Mr. Suggs.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Dorenzo. Okay, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Dorenzo?
Yes.
Mr. Storr?
Yes.
Mr. Sugg?
Yes.
Mr. Tillman?
Yes.
Chairman Monticelli?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So that addresses,
That was 4, now we're on to 5.
right, that was the second of the 3. Okay, Diane, when you're ready.
The sixth case considered by the Zoning Board of Appeals is that of the petition of Benderson Development Company, LLC, 570 Delaware Avenue, Buffalo, New York, for one variance for the purpose of installing 9 off-site advertisement signs on an existing pylon sign on premises owned by Ream Transit Associates, 570 Delaware Avenue, Buffalo, New York, at 6363 Transit Road, Lancaster, New York, to wit. A variance from the requirements of Chapter 400, zoning Section 30, subsection D1 of the Code of the Town of Lancaster. The request calls for installing 9 off-site advertisement signs for 0 Ream Road, SBL 93.13-3-1.3, on an existing pylon sign located at 6363 Transit Road. Chapter 400, zoning Section 30, subsection D1 of the Code of the Town of Lancaster requires that no sign shall be used to attract attention to an object, product, place, activity, institution, organization, or business not available or located on the premises where the sign is located. The petitioner therefore requests a variance to allow 9 off-site advertisement signs for 0 Ream Road on an existing pylon sign located at 6363 Transit Road.
Thank you, Diane. We'll open up the board to the board for questions. And Mr. Sugg, sorry.
I have no questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Sugg. Mr. Tillmans?
No questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Tillmans. Mr. Dorenzo?
Thank you, Madam Chair, no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Dorenzo, and Mr. Story.
Thank you, Madam Chair. No questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Storr. I have no questions either. Can we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Storr. Go ahead.
Whereas the zoning board of appeals of the town of Lancaster made the following findings, that no undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood by the granting of the area variance relief sought, that no detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the area variance relief sought, that the benefit sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance relief sought, that the requested area variance relief sought is not substantial, that the proposed area variance relief sought will not have an adverse effect on the impact of the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district, that the alleged difficulty is self-created, but not to the extent necessary to preclude the granting of the area variance relief sought, that this board has taken into consideration the benefit to the applicants if the area variance relief sought is granted as weighed against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by such grant, that within the intended purpose of this ordinance, that the variance relief sought, if granted, is the minimum variance necessary to afford relief.
Thank you, Mr. Storr. Thank you. I'm sorry, I missed.
Sugg.
Thank you, Mr. Sugg. Okay. Roll call vote.
Mr. Dorenzo?
Yes.
Mr. Storr?
Yes.
Mr. Sugg?
Yes.
Mr. Tillmans?
Yes.
Chairman Monticelli?
Yes. Okay, that does
Thank you
it.
very much. Have a good
Okay,
night.
you're very welcome. Thanks for coming in.
A lot of work for a couple signs.
It's a lot of historical work for a few signs.
Motion to adjourn.
What's going on with 4781 Transit?
I'd like to address a bunch of things after we adjourn.
After the meeting? Okay. And before we adjourn, the car wash is coming up next month, right?
Let me address it after
Okay.
we adjourn.
Okay. Because I had some questions about that, but we can do that another time. Okay, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Second. Thank you, Mr. Lorenzo. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We're now on to adjourn. What do we do then?